Welcome. In this video, we'll be taking a look at how to apply multiple rules of exponents to simplify expressions. So to begin, you're going to need this list of rules of exponents. Now, if you watched my earlier videos, you may already have this list, but I want you to recopy it in this order because it's going to kind of be like our order of operations as we work through expressions with exponents. So recopy the list, pause the video, and then restart it when you're ready. So the first thing on the list that we're going to do is to take care of any sort of powers of powers. So looking at number 1, I see here we've definitely got powers of powers and we've got powers of powers. So those are the first things that we're going to take care of. And so the way to do that is, well, as you can see, rule number 1 says we're going to multiply the exponents together. Okay, -3 is a coefficient, so I'm going to leave -3 alone for the moment, and I'm just going to keep whatever exponent is on the outside along with that -3. I'm going to take care of that later. Okay, everything else I'm going to multiply the exponent. So y squared times 2 is going to be, I'm going to have y to the 4th, and then if I multiply the exponent of z times 2, I'll have z to the 4th. Then for the other expression, again, this coefficient of 2 I'm going to leave alone for right now. So I'm just going to leave the 2 in its own little house and copy the exponent of 3. Take care of that later. And then I've got x to the 3rd power is going to be x to the 9th. Okay, now notice y has a missing exponent, so I'm just going to slip a 1 there. Okay, 1 times 3 is 3, so I've got y to the 3rd. And then 2 times 3 is 6, so I've got z to the 6th. Okay, the next step then is to apply rule number 2. So for rule number 2, what I'm taking care of are any negative exponents. And in this particular expression, I see a negative number here, but the exponents are all positive. So I can skip rule number 2. Rule number 3 is when I look at multiplying like bases. So when I multiply like bases, I'm adding the exponents together. So in this step, well, I definitely see I've got y to the 4th times y to the 3rd, and I've got z to the 4th times z to the 6th, so I can definitely apply rule number 3. And in this step, I'm also going to multiply my numbers out. So I've got -3 to the 2nd is 9. 2 to the 3rd is 8, which I'm going to write right next to the 9, so I've grouped my numbers together. Then I've got y to the 4th times y to the 3rd. If I use my rule number 3, I add the exponents, so that's going to be y to the 7th. And then I've got z to the 10th, it looks like. 4 plus 6 is 10. And then x doesn't have any partners over here, so I'm just going to be left with x to the 9th. So those are the only factor of x's right here. So if I put together my numbers, 9 times 8 is 72. Okay, I don't need multiplication signs between numbers and variables, or variables and variables, so I'm just going to drop those. And then the last rule that I would try to apply would be this rule number 4, which is division, but I don't see any division in this particular problem, so I can skip this step as well. So my final answer is what you see. Okay, I want you to try number 2, and I'm going to write it out so that it's easier to read. I want you to try number 2, pause the video, and then restart it after you've given it a try. So we've got -3xy to the 4th, z squared, times -3x to the 3rd, y z to the third, all to the third power. So give that one a try, pause the video, and then restart it when you're ready. Okay, so again, the first step in the process is to take care of any powers of powers. And you'll notice that this first one doesn't really have an exponent on the outside, so that means it's just a 1. So if I take care of my powers, I've got -3 to the first power. Remember, I take care of numbers or coefficients last. Or not last, but I take care of them later. I've got x to the first, so if I multiply 1 times 1, that's 1. 4 times 1 is 4. 2 times 1 is 2. And then multiplied by, okay, then I've got -3 to the third. Remember, I take care of coefficients later. So I'm copying the exponent. And then I've got x to the third, so multiplying those exponents is x to the 9th. And then y to the first to the third power is 1 times 3, so that's y to the third. And then 3 times 3 is z to the 9th. Okay, the next step again is we look for negative exponents to take care of those. I don't see any in this problem, so we move on to the third step, which is multiplying like bases, and I definitely see like bases here. So this is a step where I take care of my coefficients. So -3 to the first is -3. -3 to the third is -27. Okay, notice I'm being very careful with my signs here. And then we've got, let's see, x to the first times x to the 9th. If I add those exponents together, it gives me x to the 10th. Y to the fourth times y to the third, adding those exponents gives me y to the 7th. Z squared times z to the 9th, adding those exponents gives me z to the 11th. So if I put together my numbers, -3 times -27 is +81. X to the 10th, y to the 7th, z to the 11th. And again, looking at step 4, that would be, I would use that if there were division and I were dividing like bases, but there is certainly no division in this problem.